about the malfunction in management. You know?
Anything else?
No.
Craig, come on, let's go.
See you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Ron. Mentioned that in the future, our existing 3 centrifuges, their future will have to be decided what we're going to do with those. At some point, we will be moving over to the new machines, and I don't know what we'll be doing with those 3.
So we were giving them to the city of Binghamton for when they do them their water.
That's a very good idea there.
Excellent idea.
Well, that is exactly what was going to happen. Then all of a sudden they couldn't come up with the money, but we can always take them down there and just put them there.
We could even show them how to run them.
Ring the doorbell and ring.
So
We could show them how to wire them up.
Yeah.
we can help them with our testing.
When they're done.
But anyways, there is some value in those machines.
There is.
But it'd be a shame to see them thrown away like some of the other equipment here.
Definitely agree.
Moving forward, electrical department picked our digester sludge recirc pump VFDs back up and has installed them back into the digester boiler room.
What's this one item above that? Above
36
conduits?
I listed that. It's a situation. I believe that there was some conduits that were not engineered into the solids handling building, and
36 conduits?
yes, and they are now. Work is in progress to get that work completed because it could hold up getting those machines online.
So all the conduit for the control of the conveyors have a line conveyor and a digested sludge conveyor with slag gauge, the emergency stop pull cord switches, open close controls for manual operation of the slag gauge. And I believe they might have missed the vibration monitors for the centrifuges.
It goes back to when we first looked at the plans and we said, where's the controls? And there wasn't anything there.
Okay, moving on. That's kind of redundant. That sampling manhole slide gate still needs to be grouted due to leaks.
That was addressed a month ago.
Yeah, we're still waiting on a submittal for the appropriate materials.
And
Who's sealing it?
Streeter or one of their subs.
Okay.
has a vendor been out to look at the?
Yeah, they were out there the other day.
Valve
Remember they asked me
itself?
to go out there and open it up for them. So Streeter had a vendor in here last week looking at it. They're the same vendor that submitted the materials for digester 3.
How many days? Was that 100?
And then,
For this?
so they're gonna retest that gate,
For this?
and when they come out, it's a Waterman gate. Waterman does not,
30 days on the cases.
they're obtaining a sub for Waterman to come out and inspect that valve.
And, they need to be off the tables by Friday.
Moving on to digester gas membrane and cover, digester 3. There's some ongoing work right now that needs to be completed by Friday. It's the pipe supports for mixing equipment, and they need to get the PRVs reinstalled, and plant staff is in standby and ready to put the hatchway back on when the work is completed, so they want to pressurize the inside of the digester with the fans, positive pressure, to inflate the gas membrane and get it off the cabling,
Right.
which in return also keep up the outside cover. But the inside membrane can only lay on the on the cabling for 30 days, and Friday is 30 days. So that's kind of important, because now you're getting into warranty issues. So it could they had another option, and they wanted to just have us inflate. They were going to take the whole cover right down, and then we would just inflate it when it rained, so it would prevent puddling, and I told them that's not an option. We're not going to do that. So like I just said, the only option we have is to get the work done.
I'm going to ask you a question. They come to you for permission on this, but yet you're not the overseer of it, and that's the point. Now, does Ron know anything about this? It's got to be up by Friday, and or we lose the warranty if it goes up and find now there's a rip.
One would hope.
We're kind of getting pulled into this, and we really shouldn't be.
No, and I'm not saying it's your fault. I mean, you know, you said it wasn't an option. And was this Quantrell that's doing this part of the work?
Yeah.
Quandel.
Quandel, I'm sorry. Okay, so.
Quandel.
So the thing is, I mean, if you're gonna be with Ron tomorrow, you gotta tell them to get off their dead rear end and get those men down in there and close the damn hatch up, and don't let them out until your hangers and everything are done.
I guess it's a situation.
Because that cover costs what, $250,000?
I'm not sure the price, but yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. And that's just to buy it. That's not to install it. And that stuff. And they gotta get that done. Somebody's gotta turn around and light a fire on them, tell them that they've got to get this done so that you can get the gas to them to get it heated up and keep the cover up. So I mean, it's not your responsibility, but just tell Ron it's got to be done. I wish I didn't let him go.
Okay, moving on to some more positive items. Two of the plant employees have submitted applications for review and signing to test for higher grade wastewater treatment certifications. Adam Lafifi will be testing
Yes.
He's present.
for grade 4, and Gary Edwards will be testing for a grade 3 position, which we really need at this juncture of the road. So I like to just add that I will be signing them and sending them into submitting them for approval by NIWEA. Also, operator trainee Christine Gertis has successfully completed Volume 1 and Volume 2 of the Sacramento course.
You guys might remember her name from the last meeting,
Sure.
where she had just completed Volume 1. 30 days later, she has completed Volume 2. So, in light of all of the negativity that's going on in the plant, it's pretty impressive to see some of the employees actually stepping up, trying to stay on the ball, being proactive with their training. In regards to training, we've submitted 33 classes training on the new equipment, the new processes for contact hours, and we've received approval for those 33 classes to date. Every class we have, I apply for renewal credits, and we've had fairly good attendance despite the climate. 30 days is pretty impressive if you've seen the size of that book, you know. And for operators to continue to test, a grade 4, if you don't know, is the highest license the DEC offers in the state of New York. And Craig and I have both taken that test, and it's extremely difficult, you know. Adam, good luck.
No, thank you. Appreciate
You'll
it.
do fine.
Yeah, you will.
Thorne Mendez, last bullet point, Thorne Mendez has been working on a preliminary project for recruiting / public relations at local high schools, universities, and job fairs for future civil service tests to attract younger folks into the field of wastewater treatment. Because the last time we offered a civil service exam, turnout was extremely low. And I just think we all feel that the word didn't get out, because there's a lot of good potential operators coming out of universities and high school. A lot of kids don't, at that age, not sure what they want to do, and I don't even think they're aware of what a great field this is to get into.
Well, not only that, I think it's just the way it was labeled before. They think it's like the old days working on the farm, that they're just shoveling it all day and not doing this. It's a lot more sophisticated than that, and once you get in there and show them, I mean, you know,
Yeah,
sometimes they even to put a model of what it's like in front of them, you know, to take it around a portable thing, small there, to show them exactly how intriguing and how skilled of a person you have to be in order to do this work.
And it reflects back to the statement that was made that it is the state of an art plant. So, you know, that word gets out, it could really, you could get some good candidates that are interested in taking the exam. That's all I have.
It's not all doom and gloom here. The last 2 weeks, the training has been the best that we've received, that I've received in the 24 years that I've worked here at the plant.
Agreed.
Matt has been here for those 2 weeks. The training on the Kruger biosteer system is unbelievable, unbelievably good. So I just would like to say thanks, Matt. Thanks for coming in and even caring enough to sit in.
With comparing the training we've received so far to what we received at the last BioCorps is way beyond what we received last time.
Very good. I personally want to thank both you and Elliot for doing what you're doing. And, you know, convey to the workers, we've got a union representative here, that they're doing good and that. I'm sincere, you guys, and I'm not getting bothered with so many calls and hysteria anymore. I like that idea. That looks good, you know, and I thank you for that. Is there anything else that you got on your report? Has anybody got any questions of Craig and Elliot? If not, we're going to move on. I thank you very much, both of you. I guess we're going to start on construction, George and Steve, and I just got to turn around and I'll take it first and then turn it over to Steve if he has anything on it. But Jeff, I've got to ask you a question. Usually before, when it was reported and you did something, you'll always call up both sides. But I noticed this time it went just one way. Is this reversal?
It was oversight on my part.
Oh, okay.
My bad.
Well, I just hope right now that I think, hopefully you got a different impression of what this board is.
Yeah.
And the feeling and the tightness that went around here, because we get it from the union, the workers, why didn't we tell them? We didn't know it was coming, so. And I don't mean that, but now, Charlie and I did some research and we found out that Kruger actually does one in Poughkeepsie. All right, they do it. We don't know if it's accurate, but they do it for 13 million, but they only do 30,000 population on it. Okay, now that's our budget right here, right now, roughly, and we're doing 180,000. So, but I don't see. It's a privatized company, so you're not getting, they might have other things like doing new pipe work in there and all of that stuff, so I really don't know. I don't want to compare apples to apples because what we looked, that's all the information we could get on it, right, Charlie? And he already has so I just feel confident that I believe it's, if I was a betting man, which I am, that I'm betting that everything's going to stay the way it is.
And George, the other thing you got to keep in mind is that the RFQ that's out there that Al was able to get us a copy of does not include all the functions that are being performed by this board and some of our committees. So. I mean,
no, I definitely agree with what
and
you're
like
saying.
I mentioned, the FEMA, okay,
Yeah.
it doesn't include that at all. If I can skip ahead to flow management, I would just note that flow management is not mentioned in the RFQ at all. It's a DEC consent order requirement under the third modification consent order back in 2007. And the consultant that the owners hired to develop this RFQ was the same consultant that GHD used in the legal aspect of the flow management plan. So it's astounding that wasn't
They
covered.
left it out.
A question I received,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify, the mayor as well as a lot of other people seem confused about this process. It was actually a contractor, was hired through an RFQ back, I guess the RFQ was put out back in November or December of last year, and they actually drafted an RFP, and the RFP is what is actually out there in the wild right now that people are submitting bids on. Just as a point of clarification. And also, another point of clarification, I am unclear, and my colleagues on City Council are also unclear to what extent the board will continue to operate and what capacity the board will continue to operate. My understanding is that this RFP wasn't going to affect the operation of this board. But some of my colleagues on council are under the impression that the board will cease to exist under this RFP. And it seems like there's not a lot of lot of clarity there. Things moving pretty fast, and we are also pretty in the dark.
Yeah, definitely.
I would suggest to you, Councilman, that you read the IMA, okay, and you see.
Intermunicipal agreement, yeah.
Right.
I've been reading it. It seems impossible with the IMA and also with the, and the DEC didn't even know about this RFP until it landed. It seems impossible that we could just eliminate the board entirely that quickly.
Right.
It seems like a very involved process.
Yeah.
One question I received and can't answer because I've had no guidance are retirees. They are board employees, and the board has the medical on them. So if the plant was to change hands, where do they go? Who's taking on the retirees' medical benefits portion?
The entity.
That's another.
So you've not
I
only
was gonna cover that
terrorized the
under
employees, you've
finance.
terrorized the
It's another
retirees.
glitch.
Right. It's not,
Yeah,
It's-
they're very concerned.
I think this has gone through the courts, as far as I know, through fire departments, that the entity, the owners, are required to pay,
To lay aside the fund for that.
yes, they're required to pay in its entirety.
But I don't know that that's the intention, because we've had
Well,
no
it
word.
doesn't matter if that's the intention or not, that's the case law,
It
I'm
should
pretty
be-
sure.
Well, it should be made,
I
it should be
agree.
brought to their attention that this should be their concern, I guess is where I'm going with it.
At some point, it would be pointed out to them, I'm sure.
Like valves installed backwards, and let's do it proactively so we get it right the first time.
I spent about 2 hours around Lake to finish up my thing, trying to find out. We were gonna try to work out a space because I know how concerned with the lab was. I mean, again, it's just like it wasn't your function to tell them about certain things or go, you can't definitely do this. It wasn't my function either to do it, but I'm concerned. I'm concerned over the way, the different things with the lab. I'm concerned the way the process is, and if it's not thought through by other people and that stuff. So I gotta thank you for coming up, because you never mentioned that to me about a lab trailer. Okay, if I'd have known that before, that'd been the first thing I would have had you, digging into and finding out the price. I mean, we're not in control of it, but at least we can do their work and give them the information so we can go on and do what we have to do here. Okay? And I guess that's for me on construction. Steve, have you got anything on construction?
Not this time.
Okay. Ed, we'll get into your finance now.
All right. Obviously, we need to, next month start with our budget schedule, under the IMA. That's something that, we haven't been told not to proceed, and we need to address that. Working with our investment policy in this night class, that's under new business, so I'm not going to talk about that during finance. I mean, I am concerned in reading, again, what Al provided us, that there are a number of glitches in this RFQ that it's not, whatever proposals they might get, that's not going to be the total cost for running the operation. The owners have elected not to require proposers to insure the plant, so the owners are still going to have to be responsible for that. It's already been mentioned, they haven't addressed how the health insurance for retirees is going to be provided, and that's an obligation that's going to have to be dealt with. And there's other costs that will need to be borne. The flow management's another area. I'm sure the DEC is going to have some very strong opinion on, because it's a consent order requirement. So those are things that maybe it would make sense for us to ask for a joint meeting with the mayors, just to talk about this. We can't we can't individually, you know, send a letter to the mayor and say, gee, you ought to consider these things. That would be wrong. You know, we should do it as a board. But there's a number of concerns that, you know, that they need to understand that this isn't a total turnkey RFQ, if that's what they were looking for. You know, and you know, it's just like the councilman said, you know, there's a lot of things that in the structure as far as the board, its relationship to the outside users, the annual billing and final billing, you know, there's still a very important role in the finance for a board or some entity that's going to take care of the financial aspects of how this plant runs and how the revenue and expenses are dealt with the outside users. And that's not going to go away. It's not all just done by the comptroller or the deputy comptroller. You know, Michelle does a lot of it, and you know, it's got to be addressed, or you know, or they're going to have some serious revenue issues. So, you know, in terms of finance, I just wanted to bring that up. You know, together with the budget, that's important. The final billing, there's a draft of the 2018 final billing, but there's also the question about whether or not the owners' legislative bodies collectively, both Binghamton and Johnson City, agreed on this expense sharing back in 2016, and apparently somebody misread the Johnson City legislation. It wasn't passed by a supermajority, and therefore it's null and void as far as amending the intermunicipal agreement. And they passed something back in May of 2017, which was their version of how they would like to amend the IMA, but it never made it to the floor as city council. So that's something that's being worked on by the comptroller at this point. You know, and it's audit season. You know, as was mentioned, the city audit is ongoing, and that, you know, that affects the joint sewage project, as you know, the city's a part owner. And then there'll be the audit by EFPR group for the board, probably starting, you know, first part of June. And that's very important as well, especially because of the requirement for the single audit for the FEMA program. So it's a busy time. So that's finance. Any questions?
Where do you think the IMA is going to come in to this whole thing?
To what whole thing?
For legal wise, for
Yeah.
disbanding.
They're going to have to revamp the IMA
Of course.
in order to.
Because the IMA says the board is the employer of the employees that operate the facility.
Right.
So, I mean, they've got to address that if they're going to make a change.
And the mayor of Binghamton doesn't vote on
City council.
changes
No.
to the IMA, correct?
No.
So it's going to come down to the
City council.
and the village of Johnson
Trustees.
City.
Right. And they both have to have a supermajority
You're
in order
talking-
to amend the IMA.
You're talking 9 votes.
A supermajority of 7. City
Okay.
council is 7.
I know, but as a joint entity,
No. To amend the IMA, it's not like our budget, where
Okay.
you can use the combined voting
Right, you
strength.
gotta use both separate.
Each body has to have a supermajority.
okay.
So on the city council, you would need 5 votes out of the 7. On the village board, you would need, I think it's 4 votes out of the 5.
Right.
To get 75%, you gotta go to 80%.
Yeah, you're correct.
So, you know, there's the legislative bodies have a major say in this, and, you know, they'll represent their constituents. I have no doubt about that.
And hopefully their constituents will remind them.
I'm sure.
You wanna get into your other part?
On flow management, I'm just gonna note, you probably saw this in the press also, there was this proposal in Vestal to rezone up on Bun Hill Road some property, and we had some inquiries from the Village of Johnson City's attorneys seemed to be pushing, they seemed against it for whatever reason, which wasn't clear to me, because to me, to increase the base of the users and the flow into the plant might not be such a bad thing when historically the flows have been going down as water conserving plumbing is installed throughout the service area. You know, we have, when you look at the flows every year, they seem to go down about 2.5% a year. But in any event, this proposal, which was for 169 units, 3 to 5 bedroom apartments in so-called cottages, you know, that proposal has been withdrawn by the developer, and whether or not they're just retooling it based on some comment, or whether they're going to resubmit it, I don't know how that's going to play out. But
Is that the one, Ed, where they were putting in a 12-inch discharge on the whole thing and tying it into a 6-inch?
they had, the plans that were preliminary for the rezoning didn't specify any pipe size. They were just, you know, conceptual, that's all.
Well, Fran gave me a call from there,
Right.
didn't he?
Yeah, he came down and saw me.
Right, he told me he did and that stuff. He says, they're putting a 12 and a 6. I said, it must be a state job. But, and all that, and so then he talked about, he says, well, I don't know if we'll use up all our credits. We won't have anything, did this or that, so.
I pointed him out that that wasn't the case.
Okay, well, he did, somebody else told him, I says, hey, I said, you talked with Ed, so you've got the correct information, and
I mean, there has to be, again, with this RFQ, there has to be some way for this flow credit bank to continue to be administered. It's not something, in my opinion, that should be done by a private entity, because it's a governmental function.
Right.
You know, I mean, and it's a neutral governmental function, whereas the board, you know, the board is comprised of multiple governmental interests rather than one or the other. So that's flow management.
okay, thank you. Steve, anything on personnel?
I would like to go to executive session one time.
Okay, with ad hoc committee, anything on ad hoc?
No, the ad hoc committee hasn't got anything this month.
Okay. Well, you got correspondence and that you got them in your brochure. Anything on old business?
Oh, there's one correspondence, it's not on the list, I wanted to bring it to people. The Office of the Inspector General, Department of Homeland Security sent me a letter after I cleaned my pants off. They found nothing on our audit, there's no reportable, no requirements, so it's as nice as a clean letter they're going to get thanking us for submitting the 2017 audit.
Oh.
So that's good news, it's tremendous good news for, as far as FEMA.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I put that in your report, but I didn't type it out. I didn't type it out.
Okay. Anything on new business?
Yes.
Okay.
The item A there, investment policy in your folder, and I've emailed this to everybody as well, is a proposed updated investment policy for the board to approve and then send to the owner's legislative bodies. What this does, it takes the 1989, July of 1989, so it's almost 30 years, investment policy that the owners had approved. And in B1 on the first page, it changes the names of the financial institutions to correspond to the current date, some of which were way out of date or merged away. In item D4 on page 2, it adds cooperative funds limited to investing in securities legal for investment of public funds in New York as an option for investment. And that's consistent with our fiscal officer's request last month, or since the last meeting, that we consider the NICLAS, the New York cooperative liquid asset security system, vehicle as a short-term investment for funds like capital funds that aren't actively subject to expenditure. Because the rates of return on that currently in the 2.25 to 2.3 range are better than what the board is getting with the Crumb Canal time deposits. But in order to even get to that, we have to amend the investment policy. So if you want to discuss this, or you want me to just make a motion? I make a motion that the board adopts the updated revised investment policy as presented, 3-page document, and that the same be submitted to the owners' legislative bodies for ratification.
Second. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried 501.
That was easy. Who seconded it?
I did.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Anything else?
So do we have to do with the resolution like this to?
Right, that's the next step. In your folder, there's a copy, again, this is part of what I emailed to you in the middle of last Tuesday evening. For night class, they require your body to adopt this municipal cooperation resolution. Again, this is an entity that was established by the village of Potsdam, New York, and now has 12 pages worth of municipalities investing in. I sent that list, based on where it was in January. I know the city of Binghamton has entered into this since then as well. But I would make a motion that the board adopts the municipal cooperation resolution in the form presented in the board folder, and that we designate our fiscal officer, Chuck Shager, or Clarence is the official name, as the key contact, and our business manager, Charlie Pearsall, as a secondary contact, and our board secretary, Michelle Cuevas, as a tertiary contact on behalf of the board, and that we approve this cooperation resolution, and then, assuming that the owners adopt the revised investment policy, that same can be used effective on their approval.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Do you guys understand this?
You're asking me about what exactly?
We're kind of jumping on the bandwagon here.
Night class.
Municipalities are getting together and forming their own investment group with the money that they have. People across the state, the city of Binghamton has joined this, and our comptroller has talked to us about also being able to invest the money that we have sitting parked.
Your comptroller is Chuck Shaker.
Yes.
Right.
Who's also the one who brought it to the
This
city.
night class was founded back October 20th, 1999, so it's been around almost 20 years.
It's kind of like, I don't know what, yeah, it's an
It's
investment.
like a mutual
It's a
fund,
municipal fund for municipalities.
Right, yeah, municipal fund for municipalities.
For municipal,
I like that.
securities, because you've got to invest in U.S. government securities, state of New York securities, and some other
What
investments.
was it, 3.5%?
It's a.
Oh, no. Currently, it's between 2.25% and 2.33%.
Okay,
That's where it
for
is
some
right now.
reason I thought Chuck said when we talked about it last meeting, it was near 3.5%. That's wow.
It's never, in the last year, it's never been that high.
No, well, probably not. Okay. All right.
So I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. That's why I gave you the email with the current, the current figures.
That's better than 0.1%.
Absolutely. Or even 1%.
Yeah. Anybody else on new business?
I
If not,
wrote a note here.
Okay.
When we were talking about Simmons, we talked about writing a letter to the owners
Right.
to explain to them that there was a large amount of money still out there, and if we did go through with this change, that they should be aware that Simmons should be retained through this. I mean, or are we gonna take care of that by trying to sit down with the mayor and have a list and explain to them the whole thing?
I just don't think that you could possibly change from where we are now. I mean, that would be the stupidest move.
Howard
For the owners, even if we weren't
day
here.
one.
Oh, yeah, I know, what I'm trying to say is, somebody's gotta tell the owners,
Yeah, there's $15 million.
there's $15 million still out there, and if they,
And most of it's coming to them.
right.
Yeah, we turn around and pass it to you.
You know, it's a reduction of the
Overall.
bonded costs that they've borrowed.
Right. So do we wanna send a letter, that's where I'm going, do you wanna send a letter about that, or do you wanna make a list and try and sit down with them?
I think it's worth doing a letter that, you know, maybe we can collaborate on and send it out and get it approved and then, you know, have it sent out.
That's fine with me.
Yeah.
All right.
I make a motion, we go to executive session to discuss union contracts. And I would also like to state, I'd like the union representative that's here to be allowed to stay.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Anybody got any objection with that?
Second.
Okay. Discussion, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried, 501, yes.